Super. Uh, you are watching the Roar webinar series. I'm Josefina Bonilla, and with us we have Josiane Martinez. Josiane, how are you?
Doing well. Thank you for having me.
I'm glad you're here. I'm dying to ask you a whole bunch of questions. We were offline talking about business, and as two women entrepreneurs, business has shifted. How does that look for you, your business? And first, talk about your business.
Sure. So, good afternoon, everyone. ASG is a full service marketing firm that believes in marketing with purpose. What we do is marketing to change or influence behaviors. And, within the marketing toolbox, we do everything from developing the research, the formative research, the message, the creative, and some of the tactics to reach hard to reach communities or diverse communities. Often, those diverse communities are the hard to reach communities.
Right.
And to do that, we also have a technique that we call consumer engagement, which is a one-on-one engagement. We have people working in different gateway cities of Massachusetts, delivering that message one-on-one in communities. But with COVID, we have to basically pivot to do these interventions
Right.
online.
So
And
how does that look? Because as it is, these communities are a little difficult to get to. So, and a lot of it was kind of pedestrian type of activities, right? You had to go out there, you had to talk with people. That has shifted. So, how do you do it with COVID?
Well, basically, we turn in we what we have been doing is developing content, online and making sure that organizing, that consumer engagement happens online, keeping people safe. And so, for example, we're helping organizations, develop monthly meetings with constituents, and those are now online, right?
Okay.
Or we quickly understood that there was a need to inform hard to reach communities, about important topics during the pandemic. So we developed that content in multiple language and distribute that content online and make sure that people were accessing it. Uh, the way to do business changed also internally, right? In the administrative part, not in the services uh, part of the business, in the back end. We all working from home. That's something that we have been working on work from home policy. We were working on a work from home policy way before the pandemic hit, and we were just about launching our work from home policy when that happens. And guess what? Now you have to do it, right? So
Right.
we pivot immediately to working from home. Fortunately, we had the technology that we needed to have in place for our project managers and our account managers to be able to connect from home. And one of the things that we did, Fina, was that we established daily meetings to keep that culture alive, right? And that was a big change as a CEO. But part of keeping your culture and your business alive is making sure that you are available for your team, right? And that you keep the channels of communication open. And so we met for more than 4 months daily, twice a day, in the morning
And
and
then,
in the afternoon. And that was what kept us together and kept us growing, right?
mhm.
Not only together but growing, and successful during, I would say, during this difficult time.
So, would you say that um, you're still projected to do the same income that you thought you were going to do, or more?
I think we probably gonna be doing more because we were able to pivot right away, and because part of our business model is to really reach to get to hard to reach communities. we were able to pivot immediately to be able to offer those services to uh, organizations that needed to be able to communicate to those communities. And so we put out there that we were available to provide, advice to organizations on the right way to communicate to people, and immediately, got the opportunity to work on multiple projects related to COVID-19. So uh, that is not something that happens uh, because it happens because of the work and how we were able to position ourselves, and
And you had
looking ahead.
relationships. You had not only the relationships, but you had done projects already that brought success. That
That's
you're to say, hey, we were able to do this. Before we jumped on, we were talking about your office space and the fact that you're letting that go. That's amazing. And that's because I know as an entrepreneur, the biggest hit on your budget is space.
that's correct. I mean, the things that the possibilities, the things that you learn, right? I think, as entrepreneurs, we gotta be able to learn immediately, where you can save money, because that money could be invested in other resources, right? And right
Correct.
now, a space is not where we want to invest that money. We rather invest that in people, in providing people what they need in order to go through it. So we have been working from home for the past 5 months. Like I said, it has worked. It is extremely challenging, like I said, to keep the culture of your organization alive when you're not in a one-on-one setting. But again, you can do it as long as you keep the communication channels open and you are available to meet with your team. And I think that's one of the things, as a leader of my organization, that I feel that make us successful, which is, to be able to listen, to be empathetic, and to be there, but also to be able to communicate what the vision is, and to be able to engage people in that vision. And if you stay quiet, you don't meet with your people, chances are that you're not going to be able to meet your business goals.
Exactly, exactly. Plus, I think that we're all really busy, right? And we have to also trust that our team is busy too and getting the stuff done that they need to do. But you're right, meeting at the beginning of the day, meeting at the end of the day, I feel like that creates the stage for better communication with your team and to be able to say, these are the challenges that we have today. These are the things we have to get done. How much are you relying on online tools like Google Drive? I don't know that you use that, but other online tools that maybe you weren't relying on as much before, because I'm sure it changed the way you do your organizing of your files and your data.
Well, we have always used cloud-based softwares to organize our data, because our work, our marketing is within certain industries that require security. So we use different kinds of softwares to make sure that our data is protected. Uh, we already had policies in place to keep our data protected. But one software that I've been using a lot
Yes.
is Zoom, right? Zoom is
Yes.
known, right, that we will all become experts, in using this platform. And I think we also in the service end, we have learned how to use StreamYard and other content production
Mhm.
softwares that we didn't use in the past. Because in reality, what this is about content, right? You are pushing content out there all the time, and it's not something that you should take lightly. Every time you sit down in front of a computer, you're basically putting content out there. So it's basically a production. And so
Right.
we had to acquire those kind of softwares to be able to put together a good product out there.
So for my particular business, I've done a lot of, and I know you have as well, with a lot of consultants that work remote for me, anyways, right? And it's very project based. So I was used to doing that. I'm still used to doing that. But I feel like, in terms of your employees, there's something that has to shift as the CEO to be able to communicate more effectively with your team, right? Do you find that anything shifted for you, or do you think you've always been a great communicator?
No, no, actually, I think this pandemic has pushed us to be has pushed me to over communicate, and even when I feel like I'm doing a good job, I like to check myself and make sure that I'm being explicit, that I'm detailed, and that I take the time to communicate to my team what it is that we have in mind. The other thing, Josefina, that is very, very important, I think, in a working from home environment is like you're used to that one-on-one interactions, and you used to be in the office and you see, oh, uh, Pauline is over there, so I'm just gonna go talk to her and tell
Right,
her that I need this. That's no longer the case. So one thing that we also incorporated is to check in and send a text message, or make sure that people are organized and they have their meetings on a calendar, even if those are internal check-ins with their teams. Make sure that those are there so that it doesn't become overwhelming, when you try to communicate to them. So very simple rules, to make sure that, everybody feels, comfortable working from home. Like, it's not the same as going and talking to a person and say, hey, what do you think about this idea? Now you have to make sure that person is not in another meeting, and send a text message to make sure that a person is available to talk to you.
now so I'm going to switch gears. Let's talk about personal stuff.
Okay.
Because I think as leaders, we have to be leading the organization. We have to be the ones that motivate. Where do you find motivation to persevere, to continue the job that you're doing? Do you talk
I,
about
I find motivation in the kind of work that we do, right? We do marketing with purpose, and we really believe in that mission. We want to leave people in a better place. The organizations who engage us, are thinking on the end consumer, and the person or subjects are going to receive that information, and making sure that they are going to be in a better place. And we see the impact of our work every day.
so that
So
motivates you, but let me challenge you and say that great, the job is motivating, you're passionate about it. However, there has to be either you have a group of people that are helping you,
definitely.
or you have, so that's what I really want you to.
No, I mean, like, obviously, I also, find motivation in my staff, in the dedication that they have, the how to, they are the commitment to our mission. I found motivation in my son. I have a 3 year old, soon to be 3 year old this Saturday, that was adopted by my wife and I. And I find motivation in him. I find motivation in my wife. I find motivation and again, in this team, incredible team that I have been granted, and I don't take them for granted 1 second, right? I try when I see them work, when I see them come together and take complex issues in the society and take them apart, and come back with actionable solutions. That to me is, that's it to me is a win every day. And I'm very, very grateful for that.
So when you're not working, what are you doing?
When I'm not working, I love to read, but I love to read newspapers. So I try to read all my newspapers, all the way New York Times, Boston Globe, Washington Post, Financial Times. I love to keep abreast with what's going on in domestically, internationally. I get a lot of ideas too by understanding what's going on in the world, and what other people are doing. So either reading or I'm just playing with my baby, all kinds of Lego games, or playing outside in the sprinkles with him. It's been very hot. So when he comes back from childcare, we play outside in the sprinkles. It's a lot of fun. One day you should come. Bring your baby.
Well, my mom lives down the street from you.
You should come.
And my boys are obviously a little older, but I remember those Lego days and so many Legos. I mean, but they were great. And you're right. Sometimes, particularly with a pandemic, because as entrepreneurs, you're wearing multiple hats anyways, right? And then, so as an entrepreneur, sometimes, and particularly with the pandemic, you're not necessarily working 9 to 5. You have to shift the way you do things. It's like that for entrepreneurs, but it's even more now with the pandemic that you're doing. Talk about what that looks like for you.
Look, I think, at the beginning of the pandemic, we were hired by the state of Massachusetts to help with the public awareness campaign around contact tracing in Massachusetts, and there was no limit on time, because then those materials needed to be produced right away to get to people right away. So we also work with the Department of Unemployment to make sure that the applications were accessible to multiple individuals who spoke different languages. So that work needed to be done right away. And so we basically didn't have a 9 to 5 job back then. But after things started to after that curve started to flatten a little bit, things came back to normal. One thing that we have implemented in our group is to we have some guidelines on how to work from home, what should you do, take breaks, when you start working, go for a walk, go make sure you're hydrated. We even have our VP of client service delivery has something called the like a coffee break, where she's just sitting in her Zoom, drinking coffee, and so others could come and
I
sit
love
down
that
and just
idea.
so there are things that you can do to make sure that people are not exceeding the amount of hours, because at the end of the day you want people to be fresh, and you don't want them to be overwhelmed, right? So when there are cases, and we do work in a number of crisis, communications projects, we discuss them, and we make sure that if people do work more outside of working hours, that they do take time off after, at some point. But it's a reality, right? And depending on what you do, that's going to become the limits are going to be blurry, right? On what constitutes
Right. And you have to, as the head of your organization, you have to set the stage for what that's going to look like for your organization, how you communicate and be mindful about, not reaching out at 9:30 at night just because you had a brilliant idea, right?
That's right.
And expecting that your team is going to respond immediately to that. I mean, there's things that you have to kind of shelve until the next day. But I find working in this environment both limiting and expansive in some ways, because I do enjoy, like you, talking to people and being in their presence, and no amount of Zooming will give me that ability to do that, to talk with people, and to so I find that I keep thinking about what it's going to look like 6 months from now,
Mm-hmm.
what that's going to look like. But I don't think that virtual work environments are going to go away anytime soon, because now that you can do that, and that your team can be productive and you can be productive. So maybe it's kind of, I've just been thinking about what it could look like, right? Because my goodness, if you think about all the savings that you have in terms of your expenses for your company, you can redirect all your office expenses to other things and maybe give a stipend to your employees to work from home. But do you think about what it could look like in 6 months with
Yeah,
the
no, we have a plan already. So we are providing an stipend to each staff to, invest in their own home spaces. We are contemplating a temporary space, a smaller space, uh, for people who can work from home, right? And so we're probably moving into a more of a hybrid model,
Mhm.
going into a smaller space where, and then having people work in pods, right? So three people go this day, then the next three people get access to that office if they need it. But it's not compared to what we used to have. I am very forever grateful for my tenants, my landlords. They were very good to me for the past 6 years, but unfortunately that's not what is going to help moving forward.
Yeah, well, and that's a new reality for them too, right? Because a lot of people, candidly, I'm not planning on getting any office space anytime soon beyond the pandemic. I just don't see a need for it anymore.
They're still very uncertain, right?
Right?
So we are in the middle, as we were lucky that had these kind of projects, but we don't know what's going to happen and how things are going to change, in this next 6 months. Really, there's expectations that there will be a comeback of the pandemic in the fall.
Hmm.
So there are expectations that vaccines are not going to be available, and so we have to think about all those things and be flexible, be able to pivot right away. So uh, the show is not over yet until
Well,
it's over.
it's a lot easier, I think, and maybe you agree that for a smaller company to pivot is part of their DNA because you're pivoting all the time, and you can
that's
do that.
that's totally right. It's part of being an entrepreneur, right? So when you start a business and you think about what makes you an entrepreneur, what makes you an entrepreneur is that you are able to identify a need out there, and you are able to figure out if you have the skills, the capabilities to meet that need, and then deliver on that need,
Mhm.
right? And so that is to pivot, right? To pivot is to be able to say, okay, what's going on in my environment, how consumer needs have changed, and how do I understand those needs, and do I have the skills and capabilities to meet those needs.
Yeah, and so I totally agree with you. When you're, especially when you're a smaller organization, less than 200 people, you can pivot rather quickly. You can pivot with 1,000 people. But when you have a larger organization, and it's almost like turning for a spaceship, you can't you can't pivot that quickly. So I can see that um, a lot of different types of industries are going to really have some challenges. Unlike, and I think companies like yours, ASG, is, thank goodness you didn't make me say the original name.
Yes, no. Archipelago Strategies Group is, what it stands for. Uh, a lot of people know what an archipelago is, and it's a group of islands. You and I are from an archipelago.
Yes, we are. We are. We are. We have a few minutes. I'm going to allow folks to ask questions, but any advice you would give for other entrepreneurs that maybe are not as, they don't have as many as opportunities as you're having, that need to look for other types of work and they need to pivot?
So look, the same advice that I have been providing. I'm a marketer by training. And when I think about what marketing is the four P's of marketing: understanding your product, understanding your price, understanding your placement, understanding your promotion, right? Understanding. I think people, if people need to be thinking about, okay, if I am not moving my inventory or I'm not selling my services, what has changed, right? Where are we? How my consumer needs, the people who were my customers, how their needs have changed. If they have changed, if you understand that, there's a couple of ways that you can understand that. Pick up the phone, talk to your customers, ask them, how they're doing, how the needs have changed, and figure out if you can meet those needs, right? Look at what other people are doing. Sometimes, uh, other competitors, slash collaborators, what has worked for them, is there things that they're doing that you can implement in your business, right? And then again, figure out if you have the necessary capabilities to deliver that. A lot of people are pivoting to online. If you are a goods business, you might want to think about delivery, curbside pickup, and strengthening your digital presence. If you're a service company, you want to be thinking about how do you deliver those services, using platforms like Zoom. So figuring out, what's the need and how to meet that need, it is to me the first step. And then the rest of the things are really about tactics.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. And you're absolutely right about the four P's. We learn that in marketing, and it's key. You have to shift in asking your clients how you can help them and finding ways that you can do that. That will help you pivot your business. For example, with our company, we pivoted. Actually, we pivoted rather quickly. In January, we were already doing webinars and we were doing virtual conferences. So we were one of the first in my type of industry that started doing that. But to your point, we saw a need, and maybe it was a little me in thinking I wanted to connect with people because I was feeling isolated. And that's why we started the webinars.
Which is a great idea. And by the way, congratulations on all the success and on your book as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, hopefully you'll be on version 2.0, which we're planning. Um, but we are out of time. I want to thank you for being with us. I hope this was as enjoyable for you as it was for me. And always talking to a fellow entrepreneur, because it is an interesting breed that we are part of.
Thank you so much, Josefina. And again, congratulations and thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Okay, super. Have a great day and we'll talk soon. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you.